It's been a busy week for Steam and the Steam Deck. We have new deck updates, a discount on the 256GB LCD model. The Steam Award nominations have opened up. We have a major SteamVR patch and a new Decky plugin that makes LSFG-VK easier to install. If you're new here, welcome back to Steam Flow. I cover Steam news, performance testing on the Steam Deck, optimization guides, and everything related to Steam and Valve's hardware. If that sounds like something you would watch, please consider subscribing. It really helps out, and I'm trying to get to 10k subscribers. Without further ado, let's get into the news. First up, we have a couple of SteamOS updates on the beta branch. Valve has actually promoted the newer gyro modes from beta to the default gyro options. If you've been using all the configurations for gyro settings, they're still there, but the deck will now lean towards the improved modes automatically. And if you rely on custom layouts, you can still enable Steam Input Def Mode under Settings Developer to keep everything visible so that you don't lose any of the settings. Now, for me personally, I've tried getting into gyro before, but it's something that I've never really mastered. It's always felt a bit too sensitive, like I was fighting it more than it was helping me. So I'm not really sure if it's down to tuning the settings or anything like that. But if you have used gyro, if you are a gyro expert on the Steam Deck and you have some practical tips, I'd love to hear them in the comments. I'd love to try it with some first-person shooter games. I just always get frustrated when I'm trying to set it up and it never works as I expected. So if you've tried gyro before and you've learned how to use it, I'd love to know. Now, the second update is also on the beta branch. It's just one fix, but I think it's a pretty important one. Valve patched a regression where game recording would occasionally freeze or show black screen mid-clip. Now, I think this is a major fix. The recording tool has been pretty unreliable on the Steam Deck, and that black screen bug ruins a lot of potential footage. If you're somebody that has been using it, you know that half the time it works fine at the beginning of the clip and midway through it just turns into black screen. Now, I've tested this patch extensively, more than 15 different sessions, and so far I haven't had a single issue. It's always working as expected. The tool has been out for more than a year and it has been improving slowly. It's still not as reliable as I like, maybe because it's such a niche feature. Not everybody is gonna want to record their gameplay on the Steam Deck specifically, but it's pretty great that they've been trying to improve it. As always, be careful when running the updates on the beta branch. If you rely heavily on Decky plugins, specifically plugins that have to do with any changes to SteamOS UI, they will most certainly break. If your experience on the Steam Deck is heavily reliant on plugins, I would avoid the beta branch entirely and would just update once these come to stable. And when they do come to stable, just wait a day or two before updating. Next up, Valve quietly dropped a really solid deal on the 256GB LCD Steam Deck. It's 20% off until December 1st, dropping it down to $319 from the usual $399. I think this is a fantastic entry point if you want the full Steam Deck experience without going to the OLED, of course. 256GB isn't huge. There are games that are that big, but for indie titles, smaller AAAs or older AAAs and emulation, it's honestly fine, especially with the micro SD storage being so cheap. I wish I could say the same for SSD prices, but with the AI craze, it's gonna be really hard to find a good deal on small SSD to replace the one in the Steam Deck. I don't think it's a viable option when you're on a budget, but micro SD, in most cases, it will work just fine. Now, Valve is also running a Black Friday sale with some genuinely good discounts. This is a surprise sale because usually at this time around the year we have the autumn sale, but we already had that, and this is a separate one. I already made a separate video covering my top 5 picks, so check that out if you want a curated list of games that run fantastic on the Steam Deck, and I'll have a link for that in the description. Let me know in the comments if you have grabbed any games and what did you do. I'm always curious as to what people are adding to the Steam libraries and playing on the Steam Deck. Through your comments, I found some amazing games that I enjoy on the Steam Deck, so let me know down below. Now, next up, the nominations for the 2025 Steam Awards are now open and you can vote until December 1st. There are 11 categories this year, including Game of the Year, Labor of Love, Best Game on Steam Deck, Visual Style, Innovative Gameplay, and more. You can earn a nomination badge by voting across all categories. I always enjoy this part of the year. It reminds me of smaller games that I played in February and completely forgot about. And I think the best game on Steam Deck category is always interesting. It really shows how much the deck has shaped the way people play now. And there's always a surprising game that I've never tried before. So please go ahead and cast your vote. And if you want, you can let me know in the comments what your picks are. Moving on, SteamVR 2.14 dropped this week. This is not a Steam Deck update, but I'm gonna be covering more and more in general Steam updates. This is a major update filled with fixes and quality of life improvements. What stands out here is the pace. Valve has been updating SteamVR much more frequently. We've been getting an update every 2 weeks, and it makes a ton of sense. They're pretty much gearing up to launch the Steam frame in a couple of months, so they're trying to polish the experience as much as possible. The update brings faster startup, better binding UI, improved controller simulation. There's fixes for room view crashes and better chaperone behavior with Steam Link and wired headsets, along with Linux and AMD GPU fixes. Even if you're not using VR daily, it's worth keeping an eye on. Valve is clearly prepping for this to be a much bigger feature on Steam next year. If you want to read more about this particular update, I'll have a link to the update notes below in the description. And lastly, a small but welcome update. The Decky loader store now has the official LSFG-VK plugin. Functionally, it's pretty much the same tool that we've had so far, but now you don't have to go to a GitHub, download a zip file and install it manually. You can just open Decky loader and you can look for lossless scaling and you'll find that on the store. Now, if you're not familiar with this, LSFG-VK is lossless scaling frame generation for Vulkan or for Linux. This is a tool that lets you enable frame generation in games that don't support it natively, including emulators or any other software that you can run on the Steam Deck. I've covered this in several videos, including a big 50 game test video, so I'll link those below if you want to see real world results. And that's pretty much it for this week's Steam and Steam Deck news. It's a mix of updates, great deals, and interesting movement from Valve as we get close to the end of the year. If you found this news roundup helpful or enjoyable, please consider hitting the like button. It really helps a lot. Subscribe for more Steam content and let me know in the comments which Steam Awards categories you're most excited to see the results for. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.